Hello, I'm Maurice Powell. Welcome to A Little Light Music, Manx Radio's regular Thursday evening classical music hour. Quite a mixed programme this evening, including a very little known or virtually unknown major work by Elgar, a little bit of Tchaikovsky, again something that's a major work but not often performed. And we have some English music by Malcolm Arnold, Gerald Finzi, and a few bits and pieces. So let's start with a wonderful, colourful concert overture by Dvorak. This is Carnival, written in 1891-2. It was one of three concert overtures, the other two being In Nature's Realm and Othello. And none of these, apart from Carnival, are particularly well known. I don't think I've ever heard the other two in a live concert and certainly never played them, but they're very, very attractive pieces. Just to give it a bit of context, the Carnival overture was composed shortly after Dvorak had been awarded an honorary degree at Cambridge University, and a year before he came back to Britain to the Birmingham Festival with his Requiem Mass. So a very mature piece, and as I say, one of the most colourful orchestral showpieces in the repertoire. Well, I hope you agree. A splendid start to our evening. Wonderful overture. I'm not surprised it's always remained in the repertoire. It's a pity that we don't hear some of the other orchestral pieces. I mentioned two other concert overtures, but there are a number of other pieces as well. The Noon Witch, I think the Golden Spinning Wheel, and various others. Some of them have a lot to do with Czech folklore, perhaps not quite so interesting for us these days, but they're full of wonderful things. But that is a particularly brilliant and colourful piece. What a concert opener. So, now to the music of Malcolm Arnold. Now, it's been maligned on and off over the years. Sometimes he's regarded more or less as a light music composer, not really to be taken seriously. And some of his pieces are very, very amusing. Tam O'Shanter, probably his masterpiece, is hardly light music, extremely difficult to play, but nevertheless it's easy on the ear. His symphonies, which are very little known even now, are much more hard-hitting and gritty and well worth getting to know. We're going to hear three short pieces from his dances that he wrote. Now, he wrote English dances, Scottish dances, Cornish dances, Irish dances and Welsh dances. And he also wrote a set of Manx dances. But as far as I'm aware, they've never been performed, and they certainly have never been recorded. I did see the score in the library of the Music Centre once and had a quick look at it. Apparently the Isle of Man government or whoever commissioned Malcolm Arnold to write some Manx dances. But it seems that this was a commission that he could hardly be bothered with, because the resulting score was well, frankly, extremely dull and uninspired. I did remember talking to the late lamented Alan Pickard about it. He had a look at it and had considered performing it, but when they rehearsed these dances, that they came to the conclusion that they simply weren't worth bothering about. I will have another look at them at some stage, just out of interest. But as I say, Manx dances by Malcolm Arnold do exist. Nevertheless, we're going to hear, first of all, two of his English dances, one from the first set, one from the second set, and one of his Cornish dances. So just sit back and enjoy these very, very colourful and charming pieces. That was two English dances by Malcolm Arnold, and just to finish off this little section, here's a third dance, this time from his set of Cornish dances. Three dances then by Malcolm Arnold. We heard two English dances and then the last of his four Cornish dances. And the others, the Welsh dances, the Irish dances and so on, are equally interesting, and orchestras love to play them. You do hear them from time to time. Well worth getting to know. And now we move on, or rather back a little bit, to Elgar and a major work which, well, basically nobody knows. What can it be? Well, it's a piano concerto, and well, like me, I wasn't aware that Elgar wrote a piano concerto, or even contemplated writing a piano concerto. I mean, for whom would he write it? He wasn't a concert pianist himself. Anyway, he began to sketch a piano concerto in 1913, about the same time he began to sketch a third symphony. Now, there are many pages and sketches of this piano concerto which have survived, and these have been put together and realised, as they say, by Robert Walker, and we're going to hear a performance of part of this intriguing concerto with David Owen Norris on the piano. Apart from lots of sketches and so forth that survived, there's quite a remarkable survival of Elgar himself improvising on the piano on themes from this projected work on a sort of hot wax disc. So this has given Robert Walker, as I say, who has realised this work into some kind of performable version of what Elgar's intentions may have been. The slow movement was always the most complete of the three movements, and it was given as a gift to Elgar's friend Harriet Cohen. Now, it was first performed complete in 1997 at Dartington, and it's an intriguing piece. Obviously, I've listened to all of it, and the opening movement begins like a full-blooded romantic concerto, and the last movement is rather skittish and whimsical. The slow movement really almost borders on light music. It's a very odd sort of piece. However, here we go. Something new, perhaps. This is the slow movement of a projected piano concerto by Elgar. The slow movement of a piano concerto by Elgar, a composition that Elgar didn't finish himself, but he left various sketches, as I say, a very strange recording of himself playing improvisations on the themes, enough to enable Robert Walker to produce a performing version. Well, I mean, it's the most extraordinary piece of Elgar I've ever heard, really. I mean, there's nothing there, really, that immediately says Elgar. It sounds really like a kind of a salon piece, or even a piece of music for the theatre. Now, of course, Elgar did write salon music, and he did write pieces for the theatre as well, but there's nothing really there that says Elgar immediately. Nevertheless, attractive. I guess it's destined for the same fate as, say, the piano concertos of Delius and Vaughan Williams, which are both very fine pieces, but which are very rarely heard. So, let's have a genuine piece of light music now. This is Moon Lullaby by Mark Lubbock. Mark Lubbock wrote the music for many of the very earliest radio programmes and also for theatrical touring companies. So he's left very little purely orchestral music. But this Moon Lullaby is a very attractive piece. Moon Lullaby by Mark Lubbock, one of many composers beavering away in the background to that genre that we know and love of British light music. I'll see if I can find some more pieces by him, although, as I said, there's not very much purely orchestral music, but there might be a song or two that I can dig up. Well, it's time we had a little bit of vocal music, I think, and a little bit of nostalgia. Now, one of the most frequent visitors to the island in the 1920s and 30s amongst the acknowledged classical singers was the soprano Elsie Sotheby. She came, probably 20 times, something like that. Her name is always appearing in the papers, very often at the Villa Marina. She was very, very popular. Her voice was light and lyrical, so she wasn't a great dramatic soprano. And her voice has a kind of a girlish quality, which was obviously very appealing. As I say, she came here many, many times and would have been a very well-known figure most summer seasons. So here is Elsie Sotheby then singing Thomas Arne's The Lass with the Delicate Air.
Young Molly, who lived at the foot of the hill, whose fame every virgin with envy doth fill, of beauty impressed with so ample a share, men call her the best with the delicate air, with the delicate air, men call her the lass with the delicate air. By a murmuring brook on a green mossy bed, a tablet composing the fair one was laid. Surprised and transported, I could not forbear with rapture to gaze on her delicate air, on her delicate air, with rapture to gaze on her delicate air. A thousand times o'er I've repeated my suit, but still the tormentor affects to be mute. Then tell me, ye swains who have conquered the fair, how to win the dear lass with the delicate air, with the delicate air, how to win the dear lass with the
The charming voice of Elsie Sotheby, who came here to the island many, many seasons in the 20s and 30s and was very popular. And now I think we've got time for a fairly major piece of Tchaikovsky, and something I've never played before. Now, this is from his Manfred symphony. Now, it's not counted as one of the sort of the six symphonies. It was actually written between the fourth and fifth symphonies, and it's really referred to as a symphony in four scenes, based on Byron's poem Manfred of 1817, about a wanderer seeking answers to life's unanswerable questions. Well, I think we all know what that feels like. Tchaikovsky wrote it at the request of his contemporary Balakirev. It's rarely performed today, partly because of its length and complexity. It lasts over an hour in performance. I'm going to play what is effectively the scherzo, vivace. At this particular point in the story, an alpine spirit appears before Manfred. Well, of course, he doesn't get any answers to life's unanswerable questions, and at one point, in frustration, he raises his fist to God. Well, how do you think that turned out? Nevertheless, it's a very powerful work. The Vivace from Tchaikovsky's Manfred. The Vivace, what is in effect a scherzo from Tchaikovsky's Manfred, a symphony in all but name, a very mature work, as I said, composed between the fourth and fifth symphonies. Very, very fine piece. I've never played it and I've never heard it at a live concert, but I've known this work ever since I started listening to music, and but I've never been able to program it with the orchestra. It's a very, very long piece, but extremely dramatic. So I hope you enjoyed that little flavour of it. Perhaps we'll have another movement later in the series when we feel like a little bit of red meat. That really brings us to the end of the programme. Well, I hope you've enjoyed my selection. Brilliant start with the Dvorak Carnival. Very unusual piece of Elgar. A very unusual piece of Tchaikovsky as well, and some other bits and pieces. We need something to finish with. Let me just have a look. What do I think here? Piece of music by Joyce Cochran. This is called Honey Child. I'll try and find out a little bit more about Joyce Cochran. There's not much orchestral music at all, but she did write a song or two for Gracie Fields. Anyway, here's Honey Child. Please join me again next week at 9, when there will be some Mozart and Rossini and other things as well. Goodbye.